His face was older, worn by years of shadows. But the eyes, those eyes, I recognized them instantly. The boy we buried wasn't a boy anymore. He didn't speak right away. Just looked at me. Not with rage. With disappointment. "You left me," he said. "All of you." Becca took a step forward. "We were kids. We didn't know." "No," he cut her off. "Claire knew." I couldn't deny it. Somewhere deep inside, I'd always known the truth. I led them. I was the one they listened to. I convinced them silence was safety. "You survived," I said quietly. "All this time, why now?" He stepped closer. "Because I wanted you to remember. Not just what happened, but what it made you." Becca's voice cracked. "What do you want?" He stared at me. "Justice? Revenge?" He shook his head. "No. I already buried the others. I just want one thing from you, Claire." I tensed. "What?" He held out a small, tattered notebook, the original Black River Pact, stained and weathered. "Burn it," he said. "Right here. With your own hands." I looked down at it. 5 names. 5 prints. 1 lie. I took the book. Lit a match. Watched it burn. The flames danced in our eyes, and for the first time since that night, I felt the weight begin to lift. He turned and walked into the woods, disappearing like mist. We never saw him again. 3 months later, I left the force. The case was never officially opened. No arrests. No trials. Just 5 old friends, a forgotten river, and a secret that almost destroyed us all. But sometimes, when I close my eyes at night, I still hear him breathing. Beneath the dirt. "Your memory is a lie." I stared at the words until they stopped making sense. I didn't want to believe it, but something inside me shifted, like a puzzle piece snapping into place. Or snapping out of one. Becca knelt beside the fire, staring at the photos. "This is all wrong," she whispered. "Claire, do you remember who suggested the pact that night?" I blinked. I tried to picture it, that final moment when we all agreed to bury the secret. I saw the fire, the storm, the body. I heard our voices. But I couldn't remember who said it first. Then I heard my own voice, in my head, echoing from that night. "We swear never to speak of this again." Becca looked up at me, slowly. "It was you, wasn't it?" "No," I said. But my voice shook. And in that moment, something cracked open. Flashes. Not memories, corrections. The boy didn't trip. He ran. He got away. And we chased him. We caught him. Jake held him down. Rachel screamed. I told them to stop. But I was too late. He wasn't dead when we buried him. He was breathing. I dropped to my knees. "Oh my God!" I whispered. "We buried him alive." The air around us turned electric. The trees seemed to lean in. And from the darkness, a voice emerged. Low. Calm. "Now you remember." We turned. The figure stepped into the firelight. And for the first time in 27 years, I saw his face. I didn't wait. I grabbed Becca by the wrist and pulled her out the back door of the diner. The air was thick, heavy, like the sky was holding its breath. The cross on the Jeep wasn't just a warning. It was a promise. Becca was next. We drove in silence, headlights cutting through the mist. My mind raced. There was only one place left where this could end, the same place it all began. Black River. Becca knew it, too. "He's drawing us there," she said, barely above a whisper. "Like we're chess pieces. And he's already planned the last move." Then we changed the game. We reached the clearing just before sunrise. The 5 crosses were still there, but now, one had been knocked over. Becca's. Next to it, a lantern. Flickering. I moved slowly, Becca continued. Last time he came in, he left a tip. I didn't look at it until later. She handed me a crumpled dollar bill. Scribbled across it, in faded ink, were the words. Only one raven left to fall. Becca was shaking now. He's going to kill us, Claire. One by one. Until only you remain. I grabbed her arm. No. Not if we stop him first. We need to find out who he is. But it was already too late. The lights flickered. A shadow passed the window. And outside, resting on the hood of my Jeep, was a new wooden cross. Carved into it. Rebecca. Becca didn't say my name. She didn't have to. She just stared, frozen behind the counter. Her eyes rimmed red, not from surprise, but from years of holding something in too long. I knew you'd come, she whispered. I nodded. They're dead, Becca. Noah. Jake. Maybe Rachel too. Her voice cracked. I saw the crosses. You've been here the whole time? Becca wiped her hands on her rag, glanced around like the walls were listening. Then she motioned for me to follow her into the back room. Once the doors shut, she turned to me with a look I hadn't seen in years. That same raw panic from 1998. I thought I saw him, Claire, she said. 2 weeks ago. Right outside the diner. Just standing there. Who? She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled a shoebox from under a shelf. Inside were scraps, newspaper clippings, printed forum posts, a torn backpack strap, and something worse. A bracelet. A child's. The same woven band the boy wore the night he died. I dug it up, she confessed. 3 years ago. I went back to the river. I had to know if he was really there. I stepped back. Becca, are you saying? There was nothing there, Claire. No bones. No body. My mind spun. We buried him. We were sure. But what if? What if he wasn't dead? What if he got out? Or worse, what if someone else did? The next morning, I returned to the riverbank. The crosses were still there, unmoved, undisturbed. I checked for footprints, tire tracks, anything. But the mud was smooth. Too smooth. Like whoever planted them had floated in and vanished. Then I noticed something odd. At the base of my cross, the one without a name, there was ash. A small pile, blackened and still faintly warm. And in the center of that ash was a burned photograph. Most of it was destroyed, but one corner remained. A boy's face. The same boy from that night. I couldn't breathe. It had been nearly 3 decades, but I knew that face. Wide eyes. Shaggy dark hair. The kid from the riverbank. The one we buried. But that wasn't what froze my blood. On the back of the photo, in shaky handwriting. You didn't bury all of me. I stood there, trembling, as realization set in. This wasn't about guilt. This was revenge. I drove straight to the last known address we had for Becca. It was a long shot, but I had to try. According to the forum thread I'd found, someone matching her description had been working at a roadside diner under the name June. When I walked in, the woman behind the counter dropped the coffee pot. Her hands were shaking. It was Becca. And she was terrified. I didn't sleep that night. I camped near the Jeep with my back against the tire, gun on my lap, eyes on the trees. But sleep wouldn't come, not with memories clawing at the edges of my mind like roots through old floorboards. That summer in '98, we were invincible. Until we weren't. It happened the night before we all left for college. We were drunk, reckless, and stupid. Jake had brought moonshine from his cousin in Tennessee. Becca was crying about leaving. Rachel was high on something I didn't recognize. And Noah. Noah had found the boy. A local kid. Maybe 12. He'd been watching us from the other side of the river. Jake yelled at him, told him to get lost. The kid didn't move. Just stared. Then Rachel said something that changed everything. He heard us. He saw. We confronted him. I can still see it, his eyes wide, his feet frozen, like he didn't understand why we were mad. He tried to run. He tripped. He hit his head on a rock. The silence afterward was unbearable. He wasn't breathing. We panicked. Rachel was the one who said it first. No cops. No questions. We bury this. And we did. Right there, beneath the rocks near the bend in the river. We made the pact in blood, swore we'd never speak of it again. We thought it was over. But someone else knew. Someone was there that night. And now, they were digging it all back up, one death at a time. I held that Polaroid in my hands until my fingers went numb. The crosses were handmade, rough wood, crooked lines. 5 of them. One for each of us. Noah, Rachel, Jake, Becca, me. Jake was telling me something without saying a word. Or maybe, he was begging for help. I traced the coordinates scribbled on the back of the photo. A patch of land deep in the Appalachian woods, just a few miles from where we made the pact. Black River still ran through that forest, cutting it in two like a scar. I rented a jeep and drove through rain that felt biblical. Every bend in the road was tighter than the last. Every mile dragged me deeper into memory. When I reached the old clearing, I almost didn't recognize it. The fire pit was long gone. The trees had grown denser, more menacing. But the river still whispered. And the rocks still remembered. Then I saw them. The crosses. Real ones. Not just in the photo, now planted firmly in the earth. 4 of them had names carved in. Noah, Rachel, Jake, Becca. The 5th? It was blank. Waiting. A twig snapped behind me. I spun around, gun drawn, instincts years old snapping back into place. But there was no one there. Just the wind. And in the breeze, I swear I heard it again. A scream. From 1998. From the night we buried the truth. I stared at that faint, 6 print like it was a ghost reaching out of the past. There were only 5 of us. I said. Always 5. Rachel didn't look convinced. Then whose print is that? A chill crawled down my spine. The pact was our thing. We signed it at the end of that summer, a dumb teenage blood oath we thought was symbolic. But we were alone, weren't we? No one else was there. Unless... No. It couldn't be. Rachel slipped the paper back into her bag. I kept it all these years. I don't know why. You knew, I said. Some part of you knew it would come back. She shook her head. No. I was just afraid it never really left. I left Chicago that night with a pit in my stomach and a single name burning in my mind, Jake. He was always reckless, always too close to the edge. If someone was unraveling the pact, he'd be the one with enemies. scrap of paper. I recognized it instantly. The original pact. 5 names. 5 fingerprints in blood. She pointed at the corner. A 6th smudge. Smudged. Almost invisible. I had never noticed it before. The last time I saw Noah Clark, he was climbing out of the river with a wild grin and a beer in his hand. We were 17, fearless, and stupid. The kind of stupid that thinks secrets stay buried. But secrets rot. And rot always smells. I flew out to Boulder under the pretense of being a family friend. The police had already closed the case. A tragic accident, they said. Noah lived alone, no forced entry, no signs of struggle. But I saw the bathtub. I saw the water. And I saw the message. Carved into the bathroom mirror, barely visible unless the light hit it just right. 1 down. Someone had been in that apartment. Someone who remembered. I tracked down the others. It didn't take much digging, the internet never forgets. Rachel, once the fearless leader of our little pack, was now a high-powered attorney in Chicago. Jake, the joker of the group, ran a bar outside Nashville. And Becca. Becca had disappeared from everything. No social media, no address, no trace. Except for a whisper I found on a true crime forum. A woman matching her description had been spotted in Maine, living under a different name. It was time to reunite the Ravens. But the moment I made contact, I realized something terrifying. None of them had forgotten the pact. And all of them were afraid of it. They say time buries everything. But some things, some sins, claw their way out of the dirt. It started with a letter. The envelope had no return address, just my name. Detective Claire Hawthorne, typed neatly, like it was meant to stay anonymous. Inside was a single line. They're dying, one by one. The pact wasn't forgotten. There was a photo. A group of 5 teenagers, arms over shoulders, wide grins, standing by the edge of the Black River in 1998. I recognized the faces instantly. One of them was me. I hadn't seen those people in 27